Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to this week's Q&A. It's a day early because I have a bunch of stuff scheduled tomorrow that I want to do, and I didn't want to rush through this. I wanted to take my time. So I figured to put it out a little bit early and see what we got to talk about. So let's jump right in. Starting us off, Kyle Gamblin had a question about SNES repro games like Star Fox 2 that are flashed on original carts. He wants to know more info on that and if that idea is more appealing over a repro board. I actually think that's much more common, and I don't know of any 100% drop-in replacement repro boards out there. Here's one game that I actually was thinking about using this as a Patreon giveaway this month. So, you know, spoilers, I guess. I won't say what it is, just for fun. But this is exactly that. So this, these circuit boards here were removed, the chips were removed, and new ROM chips were put in its place, and then a few jumper wires were just soldered through the back very neatly. But this was an original cartridge and everything, so in most cases, these are the things that I've seen more common than others. And maybe I'm wrong about that, because I'm definitely not an expert on repros, but I do know that Voltar has been talking about making better boards for repros for this exact reason, to have things like this, but, you know, his own iteration, so that you don't have what you very, very often see on eBay, which is somebody desolders a ROM chip, solders in a new one that is a different size, so now there's a rat's nest of wires jammed inside a SNES cart. So you definitely want to avoid those, but maybe ask a little more detail on your question, or maybe I got it. Maybe that was your question and you just wanted to know. But yeah, these are ones that are most commonly done, is finding a different donor cart and swapping the ROM files. And there should be more ways to do that soon coming up that are cleaner and neater. And I think Retro Circuits has their version of this chip up for anybody that wants to try it themselves now. And I think some open source solutions are coming. So sorry if I didn't understand the question correctly, but hopefully that'll point you in the right direction at least. Two questions from Solid Unit. First, are there any known mods to make a 31 kHz CRT monitor compatible with 15 kHz signals? No, not that I know of, and if so, that's probably a little out of my scope of understanding at the moment. It's nothing I've dug into yet. You really just need to use a line doubler, the best out there, of course, being the open source scan converter, and even the RetroTank 2X with just an HDMI to VGA converter. But as far as I know, there's conversion required. You can't just... You need to convert the signal to 31 kHz. You can't convert the 31 kHz CRT to be backward compatible. And the second question was, do I have any recommendations for magnetically shielded speakers that would go well with a 20-inch CRT monitor? You tried a cheap Vizio soundbar off Amazon and got all types of weird color and picture distortion. So thanks for letting me know that. I've heard reports of people saying that. And then, of course, you hear the rumors and the urban legends over the years, but it's good to know that people are really actually seeing problems like that. And to be honest, no, I don't know off the top of my head anything specific. I usually use computer speakers, like good ones, you know, not like garbage bin ones you find at Goodwill. I do have a lot of those as well, but basic ones. And I think that my normal go-to is to try to find like studio monitor speakers, so decent quality, and so they're like smaller bookshelf speakers. And I don't know if they're magnetically shielded, but they're well cased so that if I put them near my CRTs, I don't get any weirdness. Or maybe they are shielded on the inside and I don't realize. But those are kind of like my two go-to things are, you know, very good quality PC speakers or those. I think I found one brand. They don't make them anymore, so it was an eBay thing, but it's two very good quality studio monitors that are good enough that I could have recorded with when I was recording music for the album. And they also had optical audio inputs and yeah, both coax and SPDIF. And, you know, they pretty much had every input on the planet. So I thought that was really neat because I was able to stick those to the sides of my RGB monitor and be able to put whatever. So, you know, I was obviously doing one console at a time, but, you know, SNES, no problem, digital audio, you know, anything else in there. So it was cool. But if anybody does know of a good brand speaker, because I've been working on a few mini arcades, I actually got another one. I don't know. Will I be able to get this in the shot here? Let's see. Yeah, sort of. All right. There is another mini arcade machine right there. This one is a Neo Geo branded one, and it's got a total piece of crap emulator in it. Let's see if I get out of frame at all. Yeah, there you go. So I wanted to replace the guts of this one. I liked the artwork on it. It was kind of cool. It had, you know, some of the Neo Geo-y things on it. But I wanted to put a new speaker in here. And I wanted the speaker mounting position is right here in the middle. You could kind of sort of see the vents. So it's not right next to the CRT, but it's close. So I really wanted to see if I could find a good quality speaker to put in here that I didn't have to worry about that exact issue. So if anybody happens to know of a brand that maybe its cone is in a better shielded metal casing or something, that would be pretty cool. I think for the original arcade machines, there was so much space that they were so far away it wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, good questions. Ludo was just following up once again on his quest to split RGB signals, and he said he found a super cheap Extron RGB HV switch, and so it's not a Crosspoint, but it's basically a similar thing, but it only has one input and a bunch of outputs. So it seemed to work exactly how he needed it, and I'm sure you can get those inexpensive on eBay. So for anybody following that question looking to do the same thing, Extron Crosspoints or just Extron RGB HV, so the BNC input and output distribution amp switchers, both of those should work. And stay away from VGA ones, because if there's any kind of auto detection, it's going to look for very specific voltage on the lines. Schwink asked if the ShinyBow SCART to component adapter would work with the RetroTank 2X. It absolutely should. There's no reason at all why it shouldn't, and Mike Chi himself was even looking into making a simple RGB to component converter to use with it. But I don't own the ShinyBow one. I do own that knockoff. It's actually not even mine. I just keep forgetting to give it back to Joel, the guy who owns it. Sorry, dude, if you're watching this. I could try it on that one soon. That one's packed away, but I'm getting that 32-inch JVC consumer TV soon. I already own it. It's just been sitting at my in-laws' house. I've made some room for it. I'm going to do some work on that, and it's got component inputs, so I obviously want to do some testing with that before I take it apart and RGB mod it. So once I get all that equipment back, give me a week, and if I don't message you, just ask again, and I'll have pictures and proof if it absolutely works or not. The ShinyBow is a better converter, but it's very similar to the crappy knockoff one, so if that one works, the ShinyBow should. Bo Lee had a question. I guess there's a bunch of consoles running into a JVC RGB monitor that are all working well, except with the PS2, it doesn't look as good in 480i. And I believe Bo was trying to do things like NTSC deinterlacing in the GSM selector. And the question is, any idea on how I can get the PS2 to display deinterlaced video? I'm really sorry to tell you this, but this is a huge battle a lot of people have been trying to go through. And it's especially a battle for people who want to stream on Twitch with high-end equipment, because every time you switch back and forth between these interlaced resolutions, you drop signal. So it's a battle a lot of people are fighting, and there's no good solution yet. And I don't think there's a good way to force any deinterlacing. I think some games you're able to force 480p or force 240p, but not many at all. So unfortunately, it's something that sounds like you should just try to get used to playing in 480i. But the good news is 480i on a CRT isn't that bad compared to something like Bob deinterlacing on a flat screen. Because the reason a lot of devices use what's called Bob deinterlacing is because it's pretty much zero lag. So, that's obviously a huge advantage for games, but the flicker is so much worse. So at least 480i on a CRT isn't as bad for you. I don't know about anybody else, but I get dizzy if I watch 480i content Bob deinterlaced on a flat screen for too long. So I really wish there was a better answer for everybody. Things may be coming in the next year that would help. but I don't know if your JVC monitor would be compatible with 480p or up. So, yeah, sorry. Unfortunately, the only real answer I have is just try and get used to 480i now. And the only other thing, I guess, if your favorite console is the PS2, you can find those widescreen HD CRTs that upscale everything to 1080i. And if you use that, 480i actually looks quite good, and the flicker isn't as predominant. It's almost, I don't know, I'm using the wrong word, but it almost feels like it's blended better. But that's a little crazy. That's if, you're now trying to find a big heavy TV specifically to play PS2 480i games, or I guess any 480i games. And if that is your favorite console, I would. I'm a little crazy like that, but it sounds like you just have a wide variety of consoles, and you're only really having issues with the PS2 stuff. So, sorry, I think you're stuck for until somebody comes up with a better way. Lars Olschlager had a question about Soldering Station. His Soldering Station uses the 900M T-tips, and he thinks the 937D that I have linked on the site uses them as well. Do I know a good source? So, I don't remember the exact model numbers, other than that 937D was my old soldering station. The only thing I know for sure is that they are compatible with a lot of the different Heiko style tips and things like that, the short ones, not the long ones. And I do know that whatever one came with the 937D worked, but Voltar at one point said, hey, why don't you buy these? They're replacement tips, they're more, they were only like $10. And I don't know if it was just that I was used to using that old beat up tip, or if they really were that much better, but it was a huge difference. So I think if you, but the seller that eBay, or the eBay seller that Voltar sent me the link to doesn't sell them anymore. Otherwise I would just pass you that link, because for $10 it would be worth a try. But in all honesty, I mean, I know money shouldn't be thrown away like this, but if you're about to spend $10 on more tips, you should really consider that soldering station from, I think Banggood still has it. Amazon has gotten them, and a few people have posted pictures of it, and they said the ones they got from Amazon were identical, so it's something you always have to deal with when different companies share the same tooling. You could have completely different guts. I mean, the difference was staggering, and I keep talking about this, and I probably sound like I'm just trying to sell it, but like when I first started using what I thought was a soldering gun that was a wood burning iron and moved up to the 937D, that was a big difference. Swapping the years old beat up tip with the new one was a big difference as well, probably equal to the first. But that 937D with a good tip versus the Banggood station with the wedge tip that it came with, not even before the newer the long style tips came through, that was the biggest difference in soldering I've ever encountered. And I mean, I've been doing this for a long time now. I'm not great at it, I'm good enough, but I've been doing it for a long time, and I've never in my life been able to just pick up something and drag solder across a bunch of pins. And I use that wedge tip now for everything, even small points, just because it's so much better of an iron. So if you're considering spending some money, maybe consider just saving up a little longer and trying that one. You say you didn't mention which soldering station you have, but in all honesty, just go with a much better station. I think it's $50. At least in the U.S., so I'm not sure if you can get that overseas anywhere, but I mean, the reason I think I keep talking about this is because I think back to how many projects I ruined and how many hours of my life were wasted from using a crappy beat-up soldering gun, when if I had known the difference in good quality tools, and inexpensive good quality tools, I would have saved up and spent the money on those instead. So I think I answered your question. Look for more like the official tips that'll fit in it if you want, but I would really just try to get that better soldering station. Brad Dillon is heading to New York City in April and staying in Midtown, and wants to know what are the retro stores he needs to visit. Any other retro-related locations that you shouldn't miss. If you have the time, and if you Google Maps this, you'll see why I'm saying it in this order. I would start out at the Nintendo store in Rockefeller Center. Most people I bring there spend 10 minutes, 15 tops. It's cool. It's 2 levels. You walk around. It's neat. Most of the stuff you can get online. It's kind of fun to see. Then I would walk down the street to J&L. And don't buy anything because it's all really expensive. But it's neat to see. They've been doing it forever. When you're, in their defense, when you're renting in an area like that, rent is probably 50 grand a month or something unfathomable. So they gotta charge those prices, I guess. But it's a neat store. There's nice people there. If you just want to look around and you're polite, they'll leave you alone. They won't, they're not gonna like try to make you buy something. And if you see something you like, I mean, who knows? I've seen a few things in there where it was like 3 times the price, 3 times the price. Hey, that was kind of fair. So who knows? Maybe you'll stumble up on something that you need. Then I would jump on the subway, which is right near there, and go to one of the barcades. I'm not sure if you're a drinker, but, all of the barcades in the city, the machines are pretty beat up, but it's neat. If you don't have them near wherever you are, grab 1 beer, grab some tokens, walk around, see what you think. Then I would go to Video Games New York, and I'm drawing kind of a line down Manhattan here. And that's a very cool store. I got to know one of the people that works there. They have a lot of rare and crazy things. I think they have a lot of rare things that they put insane price tags on because they want to keep them in the displays. And if somebody's willing to pay it, whatever. But it's a cool store, and same thing. They have a lot of stuff where it's like, wow, that's so expensive. And a lot of other stuff where you're just like, how could they sell that so cheap? So, whatever. I would look around there, and 1 block away is another barcade with a slightly different set of games. So go grab yourself a second drink and, spend a little more time gaming. And then from there, I would jump on the subway and go to Brooklyn Video Games. That's a haul, especially depending on which... I think if you get on the D train, you could just go straight there. But depending on the time of day and all that, it could take 45 minutes from there. So just plan on that, just kind of chill out. And it's a small store, but everything there is fairly priced. And I would try to see, if you're in New York for a few days, try to see if there's going to be any event day there. Because a couple times I've been there for King of Fighter events, and it's just a whole bunch of cool stuff. A bunch of people that love the game, and they're streaming 2 simultaneous streams online, and it's fun. Good people, especially if you're a fan of King of Fighters. So that's definitely like the trek I would go and see. There's probably a few other things, and depending on the day, I have a bunch of stuff going on in April. I might not even be around, but if I'm in the city, definitely let me know a week or so before. Maybe there is something going on that you could tag along to and have some retro gaming fun with. But those are definitely my suggestions. If you had to pick any, if you had to say, like, what should you have to see if you were in town? I would think that if you're going to be in Brooklyn for any reason, or need to be, or don't mind the ride, go check out Brooklyn Video Games. It's small because everything in New York has to be smaller. I'm touching the window, and I can't even extend my arm all the way on this side next to me. Everything in New York is small. But it's a great prices. You have a lot of cool stuff there, and they always have all their modded consoles displayed, so it's kind of neat to see that. And I guess the Nintendo store, if you've never been to one, just because it's something about it where even though I wouldn't spend more than 10 minutes there, it's just kind of neat. It's like, oh, cool, here's the Nintendo store. Let me grab a shirt, something. But I think that was probably more of a detailed answer than you were looking for. But I wanted to paint a picture of it in case anybody listening is going to be around New York and wants to kind of do the line of retro stuff. And if I'm forgetting anything, anybody around, please let me know if I'm forgetting anything or if I've missed something around here. James Russell wants to know if the new Ness RGB kit with de-jitter built in will have a switch to turn that off. It's only a minor thing, but speedrunners might care about that very minor speed loss. I hope so. I don't know for sure. I really hope so, but I know there's probably a lot of people out there that aren't speedrunners that would be very happy to swap kits with you if that's not the case. Which I know it's a pain, but once everything's in there, just desoldering the pads that are on it and swapping the boards out isn't nearly as hard as desoldering the chip and doing the initial installation. So, yeah, sorry, that's a great question, though. I wish as soon as I get my kit, I'll definitely take a look. Phil Welker just installed Bordy's optical audio board in his SNES and is getting audio dropouts. So unfortunately, that probably means your receiver isn't compatible. And it's funny because Jason from Game Tech, he and I both tried this mod at about the same time. And we were both laughing at each other because I couldn't find a receiver that wasn't compatible, and he couldn't find a receiver that was compatible. So we were kind of giggling at that. He eventually found one. I don't think I did. I think everything I've thrown this at has worked, luckily. Just roll the dice luck. But it's because of the frequency that it runs at. So I think it runs at an odd timing frequency, and some receivers just don't understand what that is. I believe Firebrand X worked on a board to solve this, and I think Boardy may have as well. I'm not remembering off the top of my head, so definitely check firebrandx.com. And FBX, if you happen to be watching, maybe you could comment below on this one for Phil and let us know. So that's certainly one solution. And yeah, it is specific to the SNES. I'm not sure what other consoles would output in off-timing audio like that. But I know there's a few generic, when I say generic, it's, any console that uses a similar chip can all use this one optical audio mod that Dan, Citrus 3000 PSI, had put up a long time ago. I years ago bought a bunch of those parts to make the kits for my consoles and never did. They're sitting right here in a drawer in front of me. But I believe Firebrand X has done those as well. So maybe FBX, if you want to chime in on that as well. The one that's the same chip that I think's in the PlayStation 1, the 3DO, the Saturn. It's one Sony audio chip, and the optical audio mod's the same for each because it's the same output chip, so you just tap the same spots. I think that puts out a normal frequency, but I'll wait for FBX to chime in because not only has he done more research lately on this, but I think he's done the installs on a lot of these consoles. So sorry to put you on the spot, dude, but I do appreciate the help. And Phil, I guess we'll just wait and see for sure. But unfortunately, it sounds like either your receiver isn't compatible and you'd need to get a new one. So maybe this is an excuse if you were looking to upgrade your receiver. Or you might need to either tweak Boardy's board or buy another one. So it sucks, but if you do end up buying another one, at least all of the main work has been done, tapping the signals and everything, and you would just have to swap the board out. Jacob Mervin was looking for the high-quality BNC to RCA adapters that we talked about on the Retro Roundtable. I will leave a link below to the exact ones that Master Steve himself uses, but just to let you know what the difference is. If you buy, I think I have them here, if you buy like a big sack of just the cheap ones online somewhere, you can get 20 of them for a couple of dollars. On your monitor, not on an oscilloscope. On your monitor, if they work, great. Plug in red, go to 240p test suite, load up the red thing, wiggle it. If it stays solid, good. If it doesn't, throw that one out, grab another one, and go through like that on your RGB monitor. You almost would never run into issues. If you have a lot of unplug and replug or things like that, or you're putting a lot of pressure on it, you might need to change them out. They might wear out faster than others. But on a monitor, it's pretty much work or not work. So, not a big deal. However, on an oscilloscope, there could be some weirdness in that, and I've seen this myself. Steve warned me about it. I listened, but it just wasn't in the front of my mind, and I was testing the G-SCART switch, and something was going crazy, and I'd tested it before, so I'm going, all right, something's wrong. So I'm emailing Super G, who was very patient with me, and because he was curious himself, because we both wanted to know, we both kind of knew it wasn't the switch, but we wanted to know why. And I eventually tracked it down to one of the cables and adapters I was using that I've never seen an issue anywhere else. Swap that crappy adapter out, problem goes away. So if you're using an oscilloscope, spend the extra money. Don't waste hours of your time troubleshooting something that doesn't exist like I did. But for just your monitor, maybe, depending if you got OCD like myself and many others, buy the good ones, but you don't necessarily need them. Well, that's it for this week. A bunch of great questions as usual, so thank you very much to everybody who participates. And anybody new to the subscriber channels or to the Q&As, here's how this works. Any question at all you want, or even if you have suggestions on things you would like to see, both just from the channel, as a supporter, whatever. Post any question or comment you have wherever you found the latest Q&A video. So the way it's set up, it's completely not feasible for me to go back and check every one of the older ones. So if you post a question today, post it under wherever you found this video, or whatever the newest video is. And if for whatever reason I don't get to your question, please ask it again, because maybe the question came in as I was recording and it didn't pop up on the screen or something like that. But anything that I could possibly help with, or maybe point you in the right direction to find your answer, I would be happy to help. Or hell, even just weird questions or anything else you got, suggestions. Either way, it's all appreciated, and I'm really glad I get to do this. Thank you so much to people that support me across all of the platforms. And I'll just, you know, any suggestions about that either. My take on this recently is I would just sign up for all of them and let everybody else decide what's easiest for them. But if that's more of a pain than anything else, let me know. I just really appreciative of all the support and help, and I want to do whatever I can to give back, even if it's just in a small way. So thank you very much, and I will see you next week.